First of all, I would like to say welcome to all MARUF audience who are with us on this beautiful Sunday morning. I would like to welcome you all. If you have any questions during the session, you can write them over the chat box. Today, Marmara Forum City session for the wild will have two sessions. First, we are planning a session about wildlife and rethinking wildlife. In this session, Elif, Kendir, Beraha, and Yasin, Professor Yasin will start their presentations, and we are going to make a small discussion upon that. Right after that, we are going to talk about we are going to listen to the outputs of Marmarathon, which was organized on 27, 28, 29th of September. 7 groups will make presentations of 5 minutes each. Then there will be a judge assessment, and the judges will determine the top 3, and then we are going to make an assessment. Even though you see 3 people on the screen, we are a more crowded team here. Both the mentors and the judges of the Marmarathon, and dear participants are here. Now, very quickly, I would like to initiate the session. First of all, briefly, I would like to explain the reason why we are dealing with this topic. As you know, the time that we are going through is named as Anthropocene, the age of human, and this is bringing about very significant problems. Many crises that we are discussing today are outcomes of the human age. The climate crisis is one of them, and the biodiversity crisis is on the age. Most recently, the studies are showing that the climate crisis is going to have an effect on biodiversity, and in particular in the wildlife, and there will be very sudden losses. And this is not going to happen slowly, they say. And there's a description that rather than a slippery surface, we can act as if we are on the edge of a cliff. These kind of problems require very rapid solutions. As you know, the unchanging motto of MARUF is the cities that formulate solutions. And today we are here to rethink the cities and the wildlife. This year we have a new motto, rethink and act together, we say. And in this scope we have organized a Marmarathon. Our partners, Kentsel, Strateji, Superpool, WWF Turkey were our partners, and we had organized a 2-day mini ideathon, which is Marmarathon. And we have, in order to find solutions to the deadlocks of today's life about wildlife, we need to act together, and we need to rethink the existing realities, and our aim was to find out some ideas. The first presentation will be delivered by Ms. Elif Kendir Beraha, with whom we crossed our paths during the organization of Marmarathon, and she has provided us a great deal of support. She is a lecturer in Bilgi University Faculty of Architecture, and she's an architect. She did her PhD in Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, and she did her master's in Columbia University and Middle East Technical University. Her study areas are the political ecology of urban areas, artisanship culture, architectural phenomenology, and epistemologic effects. At the same time, she is a researcher. She's one of the founding members of the Folk Collective, which is a researcher design collective. There is another reason why she's with us, together with Zeynep Turan in 2021-2022. This fall season, they carried out a design studio, which was called the Wild City. In this sense, in this studio, they investigated the political ecology of Istanbul, and they have organized a series of seminars about the wildlife of Istanbul, and which can be accessible through YouTube. And she will be talking about this workshop, and we are going to see that in one sense together with the students. Specifically for Istanbul, they have investigated the ecosystems of the city in depth. And the second speaker is Mr. Yasin Çağatay Seçkin. He is the Department Head of Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality Gardens and Parks Department. Mr. Seçkin is a graduate of Architectural Faculty of Mimar Sinan University. Is in Istanbul Technical University. He did his master's degree in the architecture department, and then he got his PhD in the urban design, and his PhD subject was a sustainable landscape construction. Between 2012 and 2015, he was the Deputy Dean of ITÜ Faculty of Architecture, all the way until he became the Department Head of Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, Department of Gardens and Park. Last year, Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality established the Directorate of Urban Ecological Systems. We can talk about that. When I checked it over the web, the name of this system was planned as the urban ecological systems and the wildlife, and it could be a very good starting point in this session where we will discuss the wildlife. If you like, let's get started with Elif, Professor Elif, then we will give the floor to Professor Çağatay. Thank you very much for your invitation. It's a very exciting and interesting subject. First of all, I would like to start by an apology. I might get into a crisis of coughing in between, and I would like to apologize it in advance. I'm going to share a presentation. This is the very brief summary of the video that we have carried out with Zeynep to run. And I just want to share what we were studying and what we were doing. In the past, in Aura Istanbul, we delivered the longer version of this presentation. For this session, I have briefly summarized my presentation. Indeed, this studio, Wild City, in Turkish name was, in Turkish and English, was Rewilding the Metropolis. It means rewilding the metropolis. So both Zeynep and myself indeed are we both have very close interest areas. Wildlife is definitely not our area of expertise. However, with ecology and with the impact of fields and areas on the thinking, we were interested. And George Monbiot wrote a book. Apparel is the name of the book, and then rewilding concept and discussions attracted our attention. First, we wanted to see the urban hinterlands in the beginning, but later we wanted to refocus on the wildlife, and we tried to understand what the wildlife is. And in masters, creating such a research studio is much more pleasing. All the participants were architects, but we had participants from different organizations. We tried to broaden our horizons with the seminars, and there was a very significant preliminary research process. This study was carried out only for one term, and we could only screen and scan certain subjects in order to identify certain areas of interest. And later, the way of thinking, this way of thinking of the city was discussed in a group of 15 people. This picture, most people living in Istanbul would know this picture. As a result of developments, these animals had to leave their natural areas, and they were captured by photo traps. We have some photos, some images which influence us, which affect us, and which cause us to think. This is how we started our studio, thinking of the wildlife. For us as architects and or designers, thinking of wildlife requires a very significant transformation of thinking. We are always used to thinking from our own perspective about animals, plants, and wildlife are being substituted to certain images. But even in the city life, urban life, these are quite part of the urban life. The living areas are changing, but wildlife is an integral part of urban life. But sometimes we see small traces and bits of that from about them every now and then. And when we are specifically talking about Istanbul, some species are being are on a decline, and most probably this is also valid for the other cities around Istanbul in the Marmara region. Even though they are not a megapole like Istanbul, we see it. This is a photo of Aragular, the man who is carrying an orkinos fish. And now we cannot find a fish as big as that anymore, or it's not a standard picture to see image to see a man carrying it on the streets. Throughout 70 years, many things have changed. We started the studio discussing them, and later, this is not specific to Turkey. This is a globally debated subject. In particular, this wildlife and the city intersection is creating interesting pictures, and there are very interesting documentaries. One of them is the Wild Metropolis documentary of BBC Earth, but there are others. There is we always see the pictures of intersection of the wildlife and the city. This has been downsized to images, but these images are actually very important because we can see that the wildlife need an ecosystem in order to survive. And these photos can give us an idea, a rough idea about how this is sustained. Our focal point was on urban green infrastructure in the beginning, but later we turned into the blue infrastructure, which is actually a part of that. In order to live all together in the cities which are only human-oriented, how we can set certain areas of possibilities. Zeynep was lecturing in New York, and two metropolitans were compared in a preliminary study. And on one side, we wanted to check it systematically. We see some hot images and areas that we are paying attention, but when we try to look from a more systematic way, there was this ecosystem classification of a World Institute, and saltwater, freshwater ecosystems, meadows, forests, and human-made ecosystems is the classification that they made. And like the practice, in practice, as you see on the screen, we have investigated them in the beginning of the studio, where we can check inside Istanbul which areas describe those ecosystems and what kind of mapping we can perform about this. And actually, there are a lot of maps that had already been created, but these are partial. And for ourselves, we were divided into different groups, like water ecosystems, forest ecosystems, and the artificial ecosystems. And in our groups, we have made certain maps, and we try to make a match on them. Here, the wildlife, in the beginning, we didn't think that there were certain shelter areas within the city. There were parks, cemeteries, agricultural areas, and there were these kind of different places we tried to determine. Apart from them, Inside the urban ecosystems, there were some brown areas, the former industrial sites, change and transformation, and we made some discussions about how to reclaim them, and different groups created different graphs in order to make a significance. By the way, Madame Görsev, if you could remind me about the timing, I do not want to surpass our time. If apart from this mapping, we wanted to understand the species. What species are there? As we are not experts in this subject, we were trying to find a way of understanding the values. Of course, we know the diversity of species is important, but we wanted to show it. When we call a place a forest, what kind of trees are there, or those trees have been developed and matured naturally, and what is the difference between natural forest and the forestation areas? What are the differences between these two types of forest? And we thought of them as a part of the wildlife, giving the quality of the land, and diversity in the soil was one of the criteria we have checked. We tried to find out what differences are there, and we compared different ways of or different types of forests, like the natural and human-made planted forests. They both look green, but there are many shades of green. And what are the which type of forest is more sustainable ecologically? So we made our group works. We wanted to find out as many species as possible. Of course, these are not comprehensive lists which cover all the species, but the students made visualizations out of the inventory works during those group works. For example, the soil quality is very important for the characteristics of the forest. For example, about the mushroom diversity. When you look at them, you can say that it's not easy to say that we can carry this forest area to another place, and it's very dynamic. It balances. When it's fragmented, the relationships are lost and the characteristics are being lost. If you lose connection, if you cut the connection to a certain area, the context changes a great deal. And we have made those discussions within the limits of our knowledge. So naturally, the research phase of this project lasted very long. And we also tried to find out what threats are, like construction. This is a very obvious threat. The population increase, the types of usage were another threat. I'm not only talking about the forest, the same problems exist about the wetlands. There is a need for certain legislative change, and the characteristics of those places are changing due to certain legislative changes. We have gathered some ideas while discussing them as required by a master's studio. What should be the theoretical background? I'm not going to go into that, but the deep ecology debate, and this term was put forward by certain scientists, and the pioneers of that and their connections were discussed. This is about the ways of thinking, the ways of administration, and economic systems are affecting all this ecologic approach. In particular, inside the three ecologies concept of Guattari, there is a opinion ecology, ecology of natural lands. And on one side, it's creating a very complex system and thinking area. This is also a conceptual system in the area of thinking and opinions. And here, as Guattari refers to, Besson says human beings have a belief that they can plan everything. So we can talk about a huge pride and self-confidence, and this is more about changing the way of thinking and approaching with empathy. In those encounters, the wildlife sharpens its own distinctions. However, after a certain point, there is no such distinction. We claim, and many other people claim, that there is no distinction after a certain point. So we have discussed these resources in detail, and later we checked the examples about thinking about that. In Turkey, this was the Feral Atlas project, which was in Biennale in Turkey. A huge researching group, together with artists and designers, created certain images and visuals. Their human activity, that is, as mentioned by Görsev, it's an Anthropocene survey. The human activities cause a cascade of impacts, and they create one another with feedbacks, because people are affected significantly from the changing ecosystems. Now, in the placenta, we are talking about microplastics in placenta, in the womb of a mother, and there are so many impacts which are not visible in the first sight, and this cannot be so simple to love and protect green. Of course, we could only make an introduction to all of these subjects, but in order to change our way of thinking, these were very interesting examples. This is also from the project of Feral Atlas. It is about the human activities are getting so close to the core of the earth. So very, very interesting. Researcher groups are available. Here there is a record about the damaged soil. At the moment, there is no project proposal, as you see, but what we can see, because to see something, to problemize something, is much more important at this point in this kind of a complex issue. Later, as I say, within this term, there was a very inspiring researcher, and the most leading person is our beloved Professor Ünal Akkemik from Istanbul University Faculty of Forestry made the opening speech. We organized a series of wild talks, and we talked about the plant diversity in Istanbul, and he also joined us in our closing.
From New York'tan this came, and it's about what kind of designs can be made to change the coastal area. Marsh Johnson gave the lecture, and there are some projects that could be applied for Istanbul as well, and we had the chance to discuss them. And of course, the water talks especially in specific to Istanbul and Istanbul hinterland. There are some valid things, and there's a huge story behind it, and Deniz Çalış Kural is working. It's about the wild approaches and the wildlife in Istanbul. So I cannot go into details of them, but they were very interesting debates to connect the past and future, past and present. And Burak Güneralp talked about the case of Northern Forest in Istanbul and the bridge. He talked about the degeneration of ecosystems and their impacts. So we couldn't upload it to YouTube, but Burak Bey now allowed us to present the published study. You know, there's a fellow from Feral Atlas project, a very young architect, Fefizu, a Chinese British researcher. He made a good presentation about how to express the problems with pictures, and from the then there is a good Jamie Lorimer talk about the probiotic turn and urban rewilding. He talked about the urban rewilding, and he made a very interesting presentation. You can find them all in YouTube. So you have 2 minutes. We have our studies, and we are at the stage of compiling them, and also show this. I don't have time to go into details, but there are different tools and different areas are selected about which ecosystem should I work in Istanbul, where should I work on. For example, the northern Marmara highway, there are the places opened because we see that there are many ovens are opened, and you can see them. And of course, at first, there are quarry systems, and there are impacts that only specialist people can get and understand. There are some pilot areas selected, and we made a research about this. What are the processes? The first thing is about understanding and about what can be there, how can we approach, and how can we problematize this as a project area. The project areas at some points are very to the point, and this is about wildlife transit corridors and how to optimize them, what kind of systems can be used in which areas. And there is one or more than one pilot region, and we want to turn them into detailed offers. You cannot see it, but there is excavation material there, and also the dogs are left behind there, and the research saying that their bodies are under the highway. The result may not be seen, but there is a huge preliminary research and effort to understand. Another student tried to understand the Belgrade forest and the problems and how to approach them. We have many students, they look at they made some activities for understanding the forest, and then in terms of visuals, these students were made for more inspiration, and the same student, this is about natural cycles and also the threatening factors. For example, in the area of the place of deers, we receive support from the professor as well, and what is this? It's about understanding the soil cycle and to come up with solutions. And the solutions are not. I didn't put the solutions here because they are in the publication phase, so they're horizon opening. They were opening horizons for us. And now we can say that it is it made us make a training, and in order to understand it, you should not look it as the image. You have to be careful about some points, and this is of utmost importance. This was what I was reminded, and thank you very much. I finished my 2 minutes, I know, and if there are questions, so we can take the questions. Thank you. Thank you, that's a very nice presentation. While Çağatay Hoca's presentation is prepared, while we were discussing with the ones with the jury members, we said that this is like a start, and we have to try to empathize and try to understand. So the next stage will be a huge workshop activity. You did that, thank you very much. Now I'd like to give the floor to Çağatay Hoca. I'm ready. First and foremost, I listened to the speakers, and this is a presentation that made us feel that we are on the right track. Especially, I'd like to thank them for their research and for their master's studies. There is artificial and also natural distinction. When we looked at in Istanbul and Istanbul Greenlands, we talked about what we have to do. You know, there is the Director General of Green Areas, and they're expected to protect the parks, places, and the points that people want to go and escape, and they have to the general directorate has to protect and sustain these areas. This is a very huge, large scope area subject, and when we started this, this is not only about the ecological meaning, but we also looked at other issues, and under the directorate, under the department, there are not only units, and there are energy management, and the lightning department is within our department, and we looked at green for all areas. And while we are doing this, of course, during our discussions, we realized one thing, and we said that we have to make these areas there, and how can we gather people with the sports and arts, and how they can be more accessible. We have to talk about them. And what are the things that could be felt by people when there is the natural disaster and temperature increase? We are reminded of this, and in 5 minutes, when we look at the green areas, we see them and we can forget them. However, the climate crisis is not that easy. My guess, and I read it in some sources as well. I think that most probably human beings were not happy with the wildlife ever, and they are experiencing this right now. And it's only about parks or about the green area, so we should not look on this only, and we need to look at the reality. And there's a rewilding concept since the 1990s. There's this, and George Mundio in 2012 has a masterpiece that is published, and this is a concept that has been discussed. And how can we address this within the scope of Istanbul? So we have other activities. For example, for the play areas of Istanbul, we are working. We're trying to make turn Istanbul into a place where people can enjoy, where people can play. And we had Oyun Istanbul, and there is Wild Istanbul. And under Wild Istanbul, I think that we can work on and how we can continue. We looked at what we have, and within the scope of what we have, we looked at our directorates. There's an Anatolian and Euro part of Istanbul. They are working for both wings of Istanbul. They are responsible for sustainability, protection, and repair of the green areas. So we have a department for the facilities, and they also look at the working for the organization of these areas, reorganization of the areas, and there's energy management and lighting under us. And for the renewable energy, how Istanbul can sustain, and there's such a unit as well. The fact that we want to meet with the wild, but it is not saying meeting with the wild. It is not enough. There is biodiversity, and there's increase of biodiversity, and also how to look at the wild places, and we have to evaluate them with the scope of urban Istanbul. And how can we do that with using less chemicals, for example? And we wanted to have the established urban ecosystem department, and everyone agreed on this, and we are working. And under Yaban Istanbul, we have such a department established working on. And when we say Yaban Istanbul, what we understand can be expressed in one word. What we understand from Yaban Istanbul is that while creating the green areas, while redesigning the green areas to be, and within these areas, we wanted these places to be preferred by the wildlife. For example, in Istanbul, there are some areas which are surviving thanks to fertilizers, and it's about mimicking the nature. And of course, mimicking the nature will make us more successful. This is what we thought. And setting out from there, in order to ensure the area, to organize these areas, there are a lot of items, as you know. With the permeability of the soil, and we tried to have the soil roads. We are trying to be away from the chemical materials. And except for this, with the lightning, we're at a stage of changing. You know that the green areas were lighted with high lightning points. Naturally, people, in order to feel more comfortable, people want to have the long lightning, but we are not aware how they will affect the nature life and animals. Also, what we did, and we decreased the length of the lightning, and there are some the dark places where animals can rest, and within the scope of these years, and we see improvements in the health status of the plants. Of course, having all the activities and also finalizing our method, the cast form method, is important, because in order to cooperate with the scientists, we thought that such a unit is necessary. My slides are a bit in disorder, but I'd like to talk as I want to talk. What to do? Identity is everything. Green Istanbul. For Green Istanbul, it should be visible. We started with our gardeners, and we had a training for the gardeners. This is ongoing. Data will continue, and there will be the training for the citizens. When we say a gardener, that we understand that these are the people only related with this. These are for the people who have experiences with wildlife, who can answer the questions of the citizens. And while making this landscaping, they have to be careful about this. And of course, we have a good cadre and staff, and we are working how to make it more sustainable and aware. And in our internally, we have the engineers and also the gardeners. And except for that,
apart from that, we are trying to implement several projects. First of all, under this directorate, the reason why we established the directorate, we said that it's not very possible that we make this intervention to all of the Istanbul, but we have some priority areas. These are our small gardens, or how we can organize these orchards. Yıldız, Emirgan, Florya, Atatürk Forest, all of them have been reformed. I hope everybody has visited, and if you have not visited Atatürk City Forest in Sarıyer Hacı Osman, we are inviting you all. I assigned them as protected areas, and we have carried out our work about landscape development. And if we are successful, after we are successful in those areas, we can expand it to all the city. While designing Florya forest, we kept 2/3 of the area as a protected area because there is a bird population. I'm not talking about reptiles and other species, but when we are carrying out recreative activities, the bird population can be together with us. They are feeding and reproducing there. They are protecting themselves from other wild species. We can crows, dogs and cats are urban creatures anymore. We can consider them as urban creatures, and they are protecting themselves because we do not want to feed them or to support them in any other way. That's not our approach. They are protecting their own habitats, however, by making positive discrimination to other species, but and putting those animals into their habitats. We do not want to disturb them and cause them to escape. So we have taken those duties and powers from other authorities, and we have collected those powers under our directorate. This year, for the first time in the spring, when the grass get longer, we didn't start cutting directly because we were thinking of the butterflies, bees, and other species. We wanted to wait the wildflowers to spread their seeds, and in this way we believe we are going to have a richer flora. In all our forests we are trying to implement bee homes. Everybody knows that they are very useful. It's very important for the sustainability of the bee population, and thanks to the bees there will be other species which will keep reproducing thanks to the bees. We always say that nature likes silence. My colleagues made a study and we created a guideline. If there is an activity or organization in the forest, certain levels of sound should be paid attention to, and the scale of the lightning should be kept at a certain limit, and we have declared those limits to all the institutions. Everybody respect that, and an important awareness has initiated. As I have said, we are trying to share the right information with the public. In particular, our ducks with green-headed ducks are available, present in Atatürk City Forest in a natural way. These ducks and other species should not be fed artificially from our hands. We are trying to explain this to our people. Our units are always under inspection and under the control of veterinaries. If they need support, in particular in winter season, they are following up and sustaining those activities. But apart from that, we are doing our best in order to prevent any other intervention, and we are trying to raise awareness. In Istanbul, we have road landscapes. We are trying to transform them in line with the modern contemporary era. We are covering them with a plant cover, and we are trying to create a new flora. This flora will be very useful for the birds which use Istanbul as a migration path, migration transit way, and this can be sometimes an area for resting, and the animals will not be able to lose their lives on the road intersections, and they will not be needing to go to cross the path. And we are also working in order to create ecological corridors. It's covered in social media. In Silivri, there were some nests of a species of birds, and there was an intervention, and structurally it was an accurate intervention in order to protect the background structure. But this harmed the natural life and the nests and the livings of these species of birds in that region. We made the intervention. We found a middle way, and so that the natural life, wildlife can be sustained, while the measures for protecting human lives are taken. While trying to do all of them, as I have said, or people's owning it is very important. And in the wildlife, sometimes as an academic, as a practitioner, the wildlife should be a concept that could be integrated to the lives of the people. And we give more importance to the identity studies. It's not only designing a new logo, but meeting them with people around the world. When we visit the greeneries, we always want to be there, want to share that we were present there, and sometimes we buy an item, a souvenir, we want to keep them alive, keep those memories alive. But we want our people to feel a belonging to those places, and we want to introduce them to the wildlife and to explain them how we need the wildlife. This is not possible to keep their survival is not possible with artificial parks, and because of excessive construction, the wolves are running out of the city, and when they run away from the city, all the ecosystem is destroyed. So we want to create some fields. We want to establish live schools. We keep informing people. For example, we say the berries here are the feeding area of the migratory birds. In some places, we create bird feeding areas. I can talk about this video. Atatürk City Forest is very important area for us. Maybe I need to downsize the volume. Atatürk City Forest is a very important area for us. Of course, we might have made mistake while designing. Humans create a footprint everywhere they touch. But we want to come together. We wanted to come together with the users and create a public design. And in this sense, we want to touch this area as little as possible by creating as little footprint as possible. We carried out some works inside Atatürk City Forest. While touching, we made very significant meetings. Our gardeners were specially preferred and they were trained. We have organized trainings with them. And while organizing them, as I have stated earlier, we considered how we can integrate them with the wildlife. And in many forests, we organize observation points for organizing bird observations. Our distinguished professor from Istanbul Technical University supported us. We met with people, we trained our people, we trained our own units. And we tried to organize all of them inside Atatürk City Forest. And now we are trying to reorganize them in all gardens, in all forests. This picture is important for me. Now we have a new concept. Apart from our gardeners, we have people who will regularly walk around the field, who will guide and lead our guests. So these people are very important in our activities. If we proceed from Atatürk City Forest, Professor, we are creating areas and we are trying to give information, and we provide small souvenirs for people. And with this, we believe we can create certain impacts on people. Apart from that, we organize the workshops of Istanbul ecosystems, where distinguished professors joined us. We organized the first of them this year. We are going to make them continuous and we are going to publish them. At the same time, in the city, about the other organizations in the city and about protective measures, ecologic protective measures, we are organizing other meetings. I talked about flora and fauna trainings. We carry out them. And with WWF this year we have organized an activity. We are not only talking about the wildlife on the water is also in this. People of Istanbul should notice this. In Istanbul there are 3 different species of dolphins and they are just next to us. We organize observations under the control of our directorate. We want them to meet our people and we want them to be proud of this. People should be proud of their wildlife, the richness of the wildlife around them. Then they can communicate with them and they can own them more. As I have said, we are organizing bird observations where distinguished professors are helping us on a voluntary basis. They are supporting us. In many areas, we are meeting with the children. We are uniting Game Istanbul and Wild Istanbul. We want to train our children. And this year we believe we can raise a higher level of awareness with more activities. Rapidly, I have concluded my remarks before 11, I guess. Thank you very much. Now, we have a very short time remaining. I'm going to check the questions and I'm going to ask our judges if they want to say anything, if there is anybody who wants to ask a question to either of the professors. And there is a question to Professor Elif. Urban planning, prioritizing the wildlife. Which applications and practices should be performed? Actually, this is similar to the question in my mind. You said you could not submit the proposals of solution, but everybody is curious about that. So would you like to briefly talk about that? Actually, it would be better if this question was asked to Professor Çağatay. But they have done very good activities and I'm very happy that I have seen that presentation. As I have said, first of all, we believe that it's very important to try to understand and therefore a variety of specialty areas are gathered together to make decisions, and this would be actually the ideal situation. And these groups of Green Istanbul and Wild Istanbul workshops started to do that. And I'm very happy. And Atatürk City Forest I have visited in order to meet you, but at that time we could not find an opportunity to meet, and I liked it very much. And it's also very important. As a designer, we should draw attention to certain pilot areas, maybe the pilot regions which did not come to our minds. Very much harmed, damaged locations can be regenerated with this approach. And we want to attract attention to some locations, and while doing that, we need to take a significant support from the specialists. So maybe we could not think about that. Professor Çağatay presented these encounters should be created starting from the childhood, and this is a very good approach. In particular, in England, we see many examples of that from a very early age. Children are encountering wildlife in an informed way, not only going out for a picnic, but they understand what is what and they are informed about certain processes. What I can say is really a group of specialists should work together, including the lawyers and of course the specialists of wildlife and ecology, and there must be artists and designers as well, because this is a multidimensional problem. And in order to attract attention, as Professor Çağatay said, There must be some logo preparations, some spot animals can be selected. In our resources, they are mentioned as charismatic species. Some animals can catch the eye of the people very abruptly, and they help us to look from a different perspective. So this is a necessary transformation of approach. But apart from that, we can select certain locations, and we try to create those approaches with regarding those. Sorry, when the presentation started, I did turn off the voice, but you said 1 minute, 2 minutes. I could not hear you. I apologize from you and everybody. I know you and you have very little time duration. During the MARUF, we had a lot of time restrictions, but for MARUF we have a longer duration. By the way, I skipped to introduce our judges. I would introduce them after the break, but I would like to briefly mention them. A person, Mr. Ahmet Yaşar Yıldız, he's working in Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. He's a forest engineer. Professor Faruk Göksu is going to ask a question. He's one of the founding members of the Kentsel urban strategies. Selva will be joining us after her other session. From Zemin Istanbul, Ecem Çuhacı Küçük. She has been our hands and eyes during this process. She is the coordinator in Zemin Istanbul. We have Nilay Dökümcü from WWF. In the next session, you will see all of them together. And at the same time, we have another judge who is not with us right now, but she was with us, the director of WWF Turkey, Sea and Wildlife Director. Now I'm giving the floor to Yıldız. Have a nice day. I'm not going to ask any question, but I just wanted to give a few pieces of information supporting Elif and Çağatay. First of all, I would like to thank Elif. I'm involved in wildlife for 20 years, and for the first time, the pig has been used for the first time as a cover in a book or in a platform. So, normally in 10 hectares, there must be maximum 1 or 2 red deers. But we have a total of 100 hectares. Normally, we should have 20-25 deers, but they have 200-250 deers. And at the season where they fall their corns, they were touching the trees. This area was not used for a very long time, and the reproduction continued, and this is why there was this damage. And Çağatay, as we are working very intensively in a variety of subjects, in our correspondence with institutions, we always say that when they are performing any projects or repairs, they can get support from our directorate. And we wanted to include ecologic passages, subways, or upper passages in line with the information we received from the national parks. In the points with the intensive wildlife, we put tables, but unfortunately we only have the pigs and deer visuals. But in Istanbul we have a lot of foxes, turtles, jackals, etc. In order to energize people, it's not enough to only make visual works. For example, on the Northern Highway, I was in the meetings. In the European side, there are 25 or 30, and in the Asian side, at least there would be 25, 50 ecologic passages, and there's only one, and this turned into an ecologic passage used by hunters. It's very sad. And Professor Çağatay mentioned a subject about lightning. It's very sensitive. I would like to give an example. Silivri prison is a home of many is home to many people, criminals or who are thought to be criminals. And this prison is used for security, and the lightnings are used very intensively, but this is causing the deaths of the birds, and this is creating problems. Police, it's said that when a human bites a dog, it is a news. But now the nature started to bite us, and it should be news anymore. Maybe later I'm going to take the word again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I would like to leave the floor to Faruk Göksu. I think we have run out of our time. I will like to make a contribution in a very short time. First of all, I would like to thank Elif and Çağatay for their presentation, and the basic message I have received from their presentation was the system. It means in the existing urban and natural systems, we need to understand and plan them very well, and this is not enough in solution of the problems. We need to implement designing processes. We know that there will be a lot of lessons to be learned from natural systems. What's important is to design processes which would harmonize the urban systems and natural systems. If we follow the well-known ways of behaviors, we can have difficulties in the design of the process. The well-established models of working and behavior is creating the problems, and we are also creating the solutions, but this is not valid anymore. We should know that the politicians, the governors, academicians should know that the solution which is found for the problems is not possible anymore. The new generation should be involved, and we need to discover the problems all together, and we need to formulate the solutions together. If we need to seek for solutions in that way, then we come across with the concept of priorities and scales. In this framework, we need to understand the system and design the process together. We have two important participants. I would like to recommend the books of Doug Cousteau and Kate from Oxford University. The report of Doug Cousteau summarizes the threats very well, and it's giving certain messages. It's very useful. And secondly, the Kate Revert has a book which is translated as Smithian Economy, which is describing that the solutions cannot be found with today's economic systems, and the new economic systems should be designed. We are entering into a new century, and we need to enter into new century with new stories. We cannot solve these problems with the old former concepts. We can only discuss among ourselves, but we cannot take concrete steps for the future. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Faruk. Indeed, you are leaving us at a nice point for passing to Marmarathon, and you say that we need to design the solutions with new methodologies, and very soon we are going to present a small trial of that. Here we have, I see one more question. Baran Jaba is one of the participants of Marmarathon. Now I'm going to leave the floor to Baran, but we have only 3 minutes. Please ask very shortly, and then a short answer, then we will give a break of 15 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. As far as I perceive, macro habitats turns into microhabitats with human interventions, and the relationships are connected. They are isolated, and in the future they will be destroyed. They will in the academic area and in the practice for special planning. Do you make a visionary planning for establishing, setting the relationships? Do you make long-term plans? In the literature, there are ecological bridges, but apart from that, without restrictions, what kind of path can be taken? Is there any plan for that in the municipality of Istanbul or in the academy? I think this is getting more important. Thank you. Professor Çağatay, shall we start with you? Our methodology is this. I don't know if it's right or wrong. As I have said earlier, the ecological bridges are inside among our plans, and we are working on them. And Ahmet Bey has also added some new points, but we are at a trial point, test point. This cannot be done by verbs. Bringing the wild into the urban space requires very comprehensive studies. One professional discipline cannot solve it. Not only ecologists or other people can resolve those issues. For this reason, we have defined a roadmap for ourselves. As I have stated, first of all, we need to get rid of the threats which send the wild from the cities. We need to prepare an environment where the wild will feel comfortable and then to observe. The main reason of the deterioration is human, in my opinion. There might be objections to that. So first we should train and raise awareness among people, and then with our test areas we need to show how it should be, because when you make a comparison to the real life, in order to organize this, it's impossible to implement those rules in every field. There are many things that corresponds to that. There are political responses, people can give reactions. It's not so easy at all times to implement the right way of doing it, or something which is right for us might not be so for someone else. For this reason, we have selected 12 areas as priority areas. At the moment, in Çekmeköy, we have a city forest. Right behind it, there are very serious forest areas where wildlife is going on. We want to observe that. After creating this area, the other individuals of wildlife, who should be, in the simplest sense, squirrels, for example, will they come towards this area? Will they prefer this area as their living area? Can we get organized in that way? We are learning while living, as Mr. Yıldız said. We are making interventions to some things. We are organizing with other units. We are sharing our know-how. But on one side, we are trying to find a method of trying what we know in the practice. So we will see where it will end up. Our dream at this moment is to implement this on specific areas, determined areas, and after they are implemented, we are not looking from our own perspective. We are going to observe if the species will prefer those areas. Do they feel peaceful in those areas? Do they want to continue their lives? So this is what we want to see. We are not going to bring and inject one species to there. First, we are going to create the field, organize the field, and then we are going to expand this. And the last sentence is important to say that when we go out of our home, in a hygienic park area, in an artificial area, we are not seeking happiness there. We want our people really when they learn to live in this world with other species, they will be more comfortable. Now we are at a trial stage. 2 years is a short time. In 1 year, we have established the forest, and we are trying to transfer valuable personalities like Mr. Yıldız. We are trying to reach knowledge from wherever available. So these are our efforts right now. Thank you very much, Çağatay. Maybe we can take the opinions of Elif in the next session. She's going to be with us as a judge, but Mr. Çağatay, Professor Çağatay will not be with us because he has another program. Thank you very much. Wild Istanbul made me very excited and we started to visit the gardens. Hopefully in a very short while we can be together in a longer term. Now we have a short break. Görsev, sorry. WWF Nilay is here. We are also working on the wastes and we have designed a waste unit together. Very soon everybody will see them in Istanbul and we are trying to evaluate them in our scope because that's one of the elements that threatens the wildlife. Nilay is going to continue with
the 10 minutes of delay. We are sorry for that delay. Now we will continue with Marmarathon. As I pointed out, Maruf didn't start the 1, 2, 3 and this Marmarathon this started in August and this is the last Maruf on the go activity. We gather together 28th, 29th of September. We gather together with the youth that you will see in a minute and their mentors and from Zemin Istanbul there are presenters. Ahmet, Yaşar, Yıldız and Ayşe made presentations. So after 2 days of hard work we will listen to the outputs from the participants and our jury will make an evaluation. I'd like to introduce our jury members. I'd like to introduce myself. I forgot this in the previous session. Görsev Aydın, Marmara Union of Municipalities. I'm the coordinator of MARUF and I'm the coordinator in the municipality. If in our jury members, Ahmet, Yaşar, Yıldız, Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, Urban Ecologic Systems Department, Forest Engineer, the Elif Kendir is the other jury member. Istanbul, she's working in Istanbul Technical University, and there is the other session. She came running there and came into this session. Faruk, Göksu, co-founder of Urban Strateji. From Zemin Istanbul, Ecem Çuhacı Küçük, entrepreneurship coordinator, and since the beginning we are working together. We'd like to thank her. And the other juries from Zemin Istanbul, training coordinator Ali Küçüker. From WWF Turkey, Nilay Dökümcü is here with as a jury and as a mentor. Availing myself of this opportunity, I'd like to greet Ayşe, the program manager, and she was the mentor throughout the project. She couldn't make it because she had another agenda today, but we weren't alone. From entrepreneurship platform, bu Umut Yıldız, Botan Çetin and Ayşegül İmamoğlu. They were together with all the participants and they acted as mentors. And if you wish, we'll continue. There will be 7 presentations for 5 minutes. So you have to close the follow and you have to use this 5 minutes well, and if if you access this time, I'll make the warning. For the first presentation, I will invite Group 1. This is not a project, but the Görsev Heart of Istanbul, Ayşegül Semiz, community manager, Baran Canbar, the master's student, and Merve Gülsüm will deliver the presentation. She is an urban planner, and we will continue if you are ready. I will make the reminder, and if you have questions for the jury members, you can ask your questions, and we will have the evaluation at the end. If there are questions, we will take them from the questions and answers part in the chat box. So the first group, if they're ready, they can start. We can start. My name is Merve. I'll talk about a coral heart of Istanbul. And of course, we have seen the situation, and of course, there is the increase of problems and the decrease of biodiversity, and we are in a relationship with many ecosystems, and that's why this is for increasing the awareness. And we have a motto, and we say that let's leave space for the coral that are flying, and we define the problem that in our cities, the ecological relations and the wildlife isn't in line with each other, and they have to be. There should be more cohesion, and of course, the Merve, sorry to interrupt. Please turn on your camera and just be in the full screen. We are in the. My camera was on. So we can see you. If I make a full screen, my camera will turn off, I guess. Let's continue this way. You're in the 6th slide. I told you about the problem definition. And we look at the situations threatening the wildlife, urbanization, wrong fishing, the ghost networks, and the pollution, air, territory, and water. We look at the ghost fishing in networks. In Sivriada, there is an activity ongoing, and in Sivriada, there is a transplantation methods are taking place. The ghost fish ghost network means the following: the people fish in the deeper areas, and so this is a threatening factor for the living environment of coral, and Syriada and Assad are important places in this regard. How can we protect this coral, and how can we integrate this into our project for protection of the other species as well? Our objective was to decrease the pressure, and we know that the only human beings are not the only owners of the urban areas, and there are different species, and we believe that it's possible to coexist and live together with them, and this is our objective. As I pointed out, it's the points There's Sivrada and Yasada, these activities conducted. And there is Garipçe and Kubalıdere, and in the coastal lines. And their presence show us that corals are in relationship with the other ecosystems, and we wanted to show these areas especially. And of course, we believe so that some areas are more of a priority to us. And Marmara, hariç. No, sorry to interrupt. We're in the 6th slide right now. Now, it doesn't proceed. We will have some technical inconvenience, but this happens there. I'm in the 9th slide. Eight. As I told you, Galata Bridge and Garipçe, we looked at the corals are in relationship with other species, and this is an ecosystem is a holistic ecosystem, and we define some awareness points, and of course we select Galata Bridge and Garipçe. Garipçe is a fishing villager. People make livelihood out of this, and in the continuity of the system, for example, we understood that Kurbadere is a place of source of pollution, and in order to increase the awareness, we can work and solution and method as follows. The awareness raising activities, and what are these areas. We discussed those, and what will we do in this regard. So in Galata Tower, from certain time, for example, we can reflect at the species that it could be coral, or there could be other living organisms living in a territory or the serene. And in Garipçe, people are making livelihood out of fishing. Therefore, if they hunt in Marmara Sea, they can endanger the living organisms, and not unaware fishing. What can we do that? There will be trainings will be supplied for by the trainers, by the experts about how to hunt, and of course we can understand how this is going. There's billboard and also poster activities. So within the when we integrated with this team, with the who will be the assisting organizations and people, there will be we are working with the Wall Artist Foundation. This is about the paintings, and the visuals are prepared so that people can understand better. And also we have some volunteer participants who can support us. So it is a very point within the access, and it is in Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. And through the journeys, there will be animations to show people, so that awareness raising will be even more. And there will be a awareness raising, including the wall artists as well. In the ferry journeys, there could be some informative signs, and there will be awareness raising billboards for the wildlife living in the urban. And of course, for example, have you seen our wild goose flying above you? Possible stakeholders, Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, the Ministry of Agriculture and Forest, the General Directorate of National Parks, National Protection, the Nature Protection, Nature Protection, and the Foundation of Protection of Marine Life. And this is our these are the equips, and as you can see, we have also put references. And thank you very much for your sensitivity to the wildlife. And I'd like to wish success to all the participants. Marvin, yes, we started with some technical difficulties, but thank you very much for your presentation. So please close your presentation. Now we will continue with the next presentation. This is group 5. It is mapping the Istanbul wildlife. Sümeyye Yıldız in İTÜ and a student of architectural department. Vesra Subay from Sakarya University, a department of architecture, and Şeyda Ertürk is a urban and regional planner. If Sümeyye is ready, we will continue with the mapping of Istanbul wildlife with Sümeyye. I will make a reminder if from the audience, if you have questions that you want to ask to the groups, you can write them, please. Hi, good day. I said the group, we are working with the view maps. It is a mapping system of Istanbul, and it covers the we saw that there wasn't any extensive wildlife and urban city working where there is the urban area, where is the wild area, where is the urban area, and these makes it harder for normal urban people to connect with the or have a relationship with the wildlife. So there is an designed interactive mapping, and of course we can do that with the trainings and also awareness raising activities, and these were taken into account into our map. And without hurting or endangering the nutrition and reproduction of the wildlife around us. So we wanted to change the relationship that we establish with the wildlife. And as the urban people, it is about we try to appeal some wonder from the people so that they can have a mutualist, they can lead a mutualist life, and they can also this is what we prepare objective at contributing to, and through the visualization there will be the mappings, and with the and for that we wanted to provide professional support. And at this very stage we had the regional synthesis maps and also active events and also awareness raising of the urban. These are our objectives. And our target group is that as the children who are the architects of the bright future, and the researchers, and also the all of Istanbul people. As a result, in the interactive, once there is website and social media platforms, and there will be natural areas as the details of the implementation, and this is what you'd like to achieve. There will be as with the websites. These are the possible visuals from the mapping. There could be, there could be bird watching, or activities or photography activities are planned. And as an income model, we can work with cooperate with the entrepreneurs and enterprises which are so respectful to the nature, and with the donations and with the advertisement income, we object at getting larger, and it, of course, this is also this is a potential to turn into social entrepreneurship. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Teşekkür ederim.
I thank you. You have an extra 1 minute remaining. For this reason, I would like to thank you. Now, the next group is the herb animal, the special wildlife database. The group number 7, Lara Subaykal, is going to make the presentation. She's a city planning student in Istanbul Technical University. And Sevra Güzel Yıldız is also make a presentation. She is the student of Şebnem Nur. And Rahşan Bur is also in their group. She's also a city planning student. Can you hear me? If you are ready, you can start. Hello, everybody. As the team, we wanted to develop an application which turns the wildlife into special data. Our main problem was the urban solutions generally focus on the human life, and the wildlife animals are getting more and more away from the periphery of the city. For this reason, we created two main services by creating a database and the GIS, Geographical Information System. For our solution, our vision is to minimize the threats created by urbanization and human life. And our goal was to make a sustainable, to ensure that the wildlife is sustainable in the urban areas. We had a network pool, and we have reached the authors of the studies and papers, and we ensured that they enter data on a system. In the previous session, there was a valuable presentation of Elif in the scope of urban wildlife studio. They made a mapping, like we want to be cooperating with the authors of similar studies. The first of the services is the web map. Web map is going to show quality, quantity, and sustainability criteria on a map based on our legend, and our main goal is to use the GIS programs. They can prepare the base maps, they can turn on and off the legends, and they can download it as a data which could be processed. In this way, the data about the wildlife could be used in the scope of analysis, and projects would be created taking the wildlife into consideration. The second service is a mobile application which can be an add-up to the popular mapping applications. It's not a single application. When a city developer is traveling around the city, they receive notifications about the information about wildlife around their vicinity, and people who will be reading those notifications can get the credits from the public transportation of Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, and they can not give information about people if they take photo. For this project, we have developed a component business model. The first one is the financial model. When we look at the sustainable business model of the project, the service in the website could be downloaded with a fee, and inside the application, encouraging opportunities could be given to the users so that people can be attracted, and wildlife analysis should be made compulsory. When we look at the user profile, in our database, the city planners, architects, engineers, and public institutions, and it could be used in all geographical areas with the location information. The existing websites are giving information on a limited number of species, and they are not displaying the situation as sufficiently. Our original value is to have a comprehensive data system about the wildlife, and this app will be addressing to everyone. And for the urban projects, it's going to provide a secure and safe data and analysis. The requirements of this project: people will be aware, people will gain awareness about wildlife. The city and the city dwellers' threat towards the wildlife will be minimized, and thanks to the data services, the wildlife will be taken as a criterion in the urbanization projects, and as a result, the wildlife and human life will be kept in a balance. When we look at the roadmap, in a 3-year course, first in Turkey and then all over the world, a global mobile application website will be established. My name is Serra Güzel Yıldız. Our team is 3 people. Thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you very much for presentation and also for the timing. I would like to thank you. If you want, we can pass to the next presentation, group number 8. City dwellers' interest in the wildlife being increased in an interactive way. Umut Akyüz, a graduate of Istanbul University Water Sciences Department. And the next participant is, I guess, a student of the Middle East Technical University City Planning Department. Onur and Önder will deliver the presentation together. You can share your screen. I am sharing it right now. I guess I'm sharing my screen. Exactly, now we see your screen. Hello, first of all. Today, in the scope of Marmarathon, we are going to share our ideas. The title is to raise the interest of city dwellers on the natural life in an interactive way. And the reason for this is the problems that we have described. The main problem is alienization. In our opinion, one of the reasons is that this alienation is because of the lacking of or weak interaction. And in this sense, for 1 month, belonging not established with the nature is also a reference point. And at the same time, in the close vicinity of people, your access to information is another problematic area. It's a challenging area. So in order to solve these problems, the goal of this project is actually to solve those problems. And the goals of our project is to increase the interaction between the nature and human and minimizing the alienization. And as a result of this interaction, interest and sensitivity shall touch the awareness on wildlife, and data and information about wildlife will be more accessible in daily life. Our target group is all of the city dwellers. This project is going to address to all of the city dwellers, and the basic location will be Vali Debag, which is inside the city. Now, Onur is going to talk about the methodology. Hello, everybody. Before passing to the methodology, I would like to make a few remarks about alienization. In our city lives, when we are commuting back and forth to life, we see many plants and animals, but we are not recognizing them. And this is an important part of the problem, that we are so much stranger to the life. If we are familiar with our backyard, then we will better know the rest of the city. Elif said it's very important, Professor Elif said it's very important to understand, and we believe that knowing is very important. So what will be the methodology that we are going to use? The parks, gardens, and forests which are inside the city, the science of information about the living beings in those fields, and the QR code should be part. So the first data here is a photo and a name. It could be a species of plant or a species of bird. Their photos and names will be written on the side, and when you read the QR code over there, you will get detailed information. This is the photos, ecological and biological characteristics, and migration periods if available, and recordings of the tweeting sounds of the birds. This application is actually ensuring the shift from the daily life to the wildlife. There will be parks and species, and there will be a panel with the information of the migration. There will be a game where you will answer certain questions, and when you answer the questions, you will get information about the wildlife of Turkey. The users will be able to share their photographs of nature, and there will be a market where, and it will be actually a recycling materials for the students, and the second-hand materials could be transferred, and we will be publishing the activities of various institutions about the nature. When this application is implemented, this is how it will look. When you go to a park, you will see a sign with the photos and names of the trees and birds. And when you read the QR code, you will have access. Again, in a park, there would be signs here about the birds. If we can record their sounds of birds, you will be able to identify the species when you listen to their sounds. And there is a list of different locations. In this project, our innovative solution is that to approach people to the nature one more step using the science and QR code applications. In conclusion, the basic steps shall be taken for the value and interest in wildlife, because children are more often in the parks. They will be a new generation who recognize the nature better. With QR codes and signs in strategic parts of the city, people's attention will be attracted. And this presentation was delivered to you by myself and my colleague Önder. Thank you very much to Onur and Önder. The next group we can start. Group number 9 will make a presentation. The mini forest, which is the home of wildlife in the cities. Kadriye Dirik from Zeytinburnu Municipality, environmental engineer. Şeyma Kaşkavalcı from Istanbul University, student of environmental engineering. And Eda Nur Öztürk, Yıldız Teknik University, environmental engineering student. The presentation will be delivered by Şeyma Nur. First of all, hello everybody. Our project is creating mini forests in the cities. The goal of this project is because of urbanization and increase in population in the cities, the areas where wild animals can live has been narrowed, and in order to decrease the climate change effects, the constructed environmental areas are being forced, and in the cities and urban areas we want to decrease the carbon emission areas. We are going to use Miyawaki technique, which means a methodology where the plants are planted in a very frequent way, and They are competing with each other, and in this way they are growing very fast. We can use them in school gardens, park, roads, crossroads, in the gardens of the apartments. We can apply this with a mobile application of maps. We can show the degrees of carbon footprint caused by the Miyawaki fields, and we can submit this to the citizens. As a pilot region, we have selected a field in Zeytinburnu district. In this field, in order to create the formal Miyawaki technique, we are going to organize an activity and which will be announced to the citizens. We are going to tell the citizens how the technique will be implemented theoretically, and the practice will be done together with the citizens. And later, as the forest is growing, with the mobile application, the citizens will be able to follow the impacts. For doing this, we are going to use the parks, gardens, and the gardens of public buildings. We will use the forest in the Yıldız Technical University, the forest of the cemeteries, and it will go all the way to the seaside. In Miyakovi Gardens, together with the students, this technique and the plantings will be done together, and then we are going to organize certain activities. Children will be able to learn and investigate the species of the plants and other animals, and children will grow up in a way integrated with the nature. The advantages of the Miyawaki technique: compared to conventional forests, they absorb 30 times more carbon dioxide. There are 300% more species. For example, in a Miyawaki forest at the age of 4 or 100 square meters, it will host more than 500 species of bugs, insects, and animals. This is an example from Pakistan. Within 1 year, there is a visible difference. This is in India. You see an area which is turned into a forest. Thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you for using your time efficiently. If you like, let's continue with the next group. We have 2 more remaining groups. The next is group number 10. They will be talking about ecology-based education module. Eylül Ergün from Middle East Technical University, city planning student. Next student is from Middle East Technical University, and the other student is from Istanbul Technical University, and the fourth student is from 9 Eylül University. So we have plenty of city planners in this group. Hello, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it? Yes, we can see it. Gizem, right? You are making the presentation. Now we will come. Your screen will come soon. I'm sure it's about to come. You can get ready. I have it, but I suppose you also see my screen. Yes, we are with you. Hello, everybody. I'm Gizem. As in team number 10, when we think about what we can do about wildlife, we all came up with the idea of protecting the wildlife areas. And the best way is the training, and for this reason we have developed the education module based on ecology. Let me briefly introduce our team. We have city and regional planning students, Ezgi, Bekir, and myself discuss the problem definition. The problem definition part was important for us because we have identified different problems which would end up in different solution recommendations. But all the problems were about protection of wildlife, and in this point the problem is that the individuals not feeling sufficient responsibility in ecological cycles, and they do not consider themselves as an effective subject in the solution. Our solution is right about those problems, and we could solve this problem with training at scale of human. And our solution was to raise awareness at an early age about the nature so that it can be internalized. The concept that we emphasized most was the right of future, and this was for the future generation, protecting the ecology and ensuring sustainability. For this reason, the goal was to ensure sustainability beyond generations. The target group is children between the ages of 4 and 6. But this training model, we can use. The reason why we have identified these groups is that according to the research, this age group of the empathy feeling can be developed. When we considered the timing of the project, we said without too late. So this is for the future, but this was also showing the urgency. So this project, this training module should be coming into force just in the next training and education season. And between the age of 4 and 6, the trainings shall start on the basis of the ensuring of ecologic values with a feeling of empathy. And the project will continue with the age group of 7 and 11, where cognitive skills are going up. And later in the secondary school and high school, this project will continue. For those trainings, we will have volunteers from the specialists and the civil society organizations. The value goals of the project are serving to a cascading goals. In the first stage, our goal is to raise ecologic awareness and understanding, then ecologic consciousness and level of information to be raised. And in ecological issues, the awareness and consciousness of responsibility shall be developed and the impact will be understood. The content of the training module is based on the age groups. The methodology is changed, but to perceive the change in the nature, learning the effects of consumption and daily movements on ecology, sustainability consciousness, experiencing sustainable lifestyle, recognizing the wildlife and ecologic responsibility. You can see some of the names of our planned activities: drama, painting, reading, movies, do-it-yourself workshops. And thanks to those activities, the wildlife will be internalized along with many areas. The projects will be implemented in schools and in all of the fields where students can have an interaction with the nature. This is all from our project. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, Gizem. Well, let's continue with the next group, which is the last group. Group 12, Wildly, the mobile game for children and applications. Hanna Balık will make the presentation. She is from Istanbul Technical University, Environment and City Planning student. Derya Tekin in Politecnico Milano. She is a master student. Nurşah Kavi in Istanbul Technical University, master student. And Egenur Bakkal, University College London, Urban Economic Development, master student. I can leave the floor to Hanna if you're ready. Okay, you can see my screen. Hello, my name is Hanna. First of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to rank the wildlife of Marmara and the problems, and for this opportunity of making this presentation. And I would like to thank you all for all the trainings and mentorship that we have received during the project. Now I am going to share wild language. When we were starting the marathon, we had an opportunity to think about the threats on wildlife. In this process, we have noticed that we know very little about wildlife. Yes, there's a wildlife, but what is it? What kind of creatures live? What do they need? We don't know. And this lack of awareness is negatively affecting the nature. What kind of path we can pursue in order to learn and teach the wildlife? And we developed the wildish language. and we put our focal point was the children. We can start the awareness with the children, which would lead to a greater impact. Benefiting from the technology, we can give a meaning to the time children pass with their phones and tablets. Our goal is to provide physical experiment possibilities. Our target group is distributed, in particular, 3-6. For the ages of 3-6, it's more useful to experience the wildlife in physical spaces. When we look at the games which are available in the application, there are special games which are developed specifically for one species of animal. And if we do not have any game which is targeting the children for the wildlife in Istanbul, our solutions inside the mobile game, there will be many experiences. We are going to prepare games, there will be information contests, and in the field experiment, there will be various planting activities, and the cups will be prepared. In the content of the application, the main page will have easy, medium, and difficult stages, and children will have access to the games according to their perception level. In the game, we are going to visualize a realistic reflection of the ecosystems. And with an integrated activity calendar, the parents will learn about the activities which were coming. Then there will be a community. On the Sarıyer map, we are going to give references to real life, and we have added the city forest and the sea area. In the game, we are going to use the animals who live in the land and the sea, and children, when they are playing these games, will get information. In the games, we are going to have puzzle-like games so that the children will learn how these species look like. When we look at the stages and milestones of the project, in 2023, in all fields of Istanbul will be passed to the game area, and our goal for 2030 is to develop the game abroad. What will be the difference of Wildish from the alternatives? It's especially prepared for children and specific to the locality. It gives its originality, and also there will be the reflections of real spaces in the game so that children will experience it better. And with in space, on location experiences, there will be some opportunities. And there will be some revenues of activities, and there will be in-game purchases. We are planning to obtain income. As with regards to our stakeholders, we are planning cooperations with different stakeholders. We can get support from the researchers in terms of data. As a result, everything starts with children, and for this reason, the wildlife will be experienced by children, and then it will be carried to the physical spaces. And this is our team. My colleagues are city planners, and they continue their master's degrees in different schools. I would like to thank my colleagues, and I would like to thank participants for listening to me.
Thank you very much. We completed our presentations. So I'd like to give the floor to jury members. We have half an hour, so we have time for evaluation. Faruk Bey, if you're ready, we can start with you. I can see that you have given your scores. You can make an evaluation about the assessment about Marmarathon. Regarding, make a general evaluation of the participants. First and foremost, I'd like to thank them. And I have taken some concepts, awareness raising, and also dealinization, and interaction, ownership, equity, and empathy. these concepts were there in all the presentations. These are known concepts and important concepts, and our friends have some developed ideas in terms of originality. So I couldn't. They are not the opinions that they can create a difference. They are known ideas, but it doesn't mean that there are some headlines and suggestions that can be taken from all of this. All of the projects are based on training and also awareness raising. The 7 groups, they can gather together for from now on. This has been a good experience. Matthew and you met us. So within a scope of a joint mind, they can have a joint project instead of declaring 7 projects for the public opinion. So this, the denominators are the common, so they can be within one project, and MARUF can publish these studies or activities with the call. So if you do it with 7 projects, that will not create effect. But with a few days of working with the communicators, if they're communication experts, and they can be put into upfront, and there could be a joint presentation, and I believe that will be more effective. And for MARUF, I'd like to say a few words. It's about being overloaded. This has been a very intensive and packed process in which there are everything. I don't know what will be the effects of this. So we are looking at this with the youngsters, and we can share these. But this is a full packed MARUF experience, even if it is online. I think that there is the effect of this. I was involved in 2 activities, and I care about working with the youngsters, and I care about the ideas of the youngsters. So that there could be the ideas specific to us, and MARUF can start a campaign that will be effective, I believe, because taking into account the messages of the professors and academicians, and also the suggestions of the youngsters can be taken into account. So there can be an awareness raising campaign. It could be related to the Union of Marmara Municipalities, or a general one, and such an activity will ensure that these are not forgotten. And there is something I'd like to repeat, say in few meetings. This is we have to remember that it's a system and process design, and we have to take the behavior specific to us. So not the ones that we known ones. We have to take everyone. We can have such a program. There is such an application. There are, for example, the motto is that learning the wild with a foreigner. It's a pun, a Turkish pun is intended. Interpreter's note. There are a few more notes, and I'd like to thank you. And this should I think that it will be beneficial when it turned into a common program. Faruk, Göksu, He is the member of execution board of MARUF, and also he executed the Marmara youth activity, but the youngsters decided on what to do. So I know that you should set them free. Now I'd like to give the floor to Nilay from WWF Turkey. Thank you very much. I have taken notes about information and data. So data will be collected and processed rightly. And wonder, if you cannot wonder, you cannot find this empathy, because this is it is not for human beings. We have to respect the rights of nature, technology. Their activities are for awareness raising with the technology, and there's cooperation, and this is something that has to be there. I want to hear on-site protection. There could be photo cage, and they could have looked at the numbers of the animals, or foreseeing the dangers. So if there's going to be a joint project, it should be within a methodology there, and how to address this. This is the nature protection is a global issue, and this is a global issue, and we'd like to say how we relate it. There are ecological reasons, economic reasons, ethics and aesthetics reasons. The professors pointed out it's a multidisciplinary area where the projects that can be shared together, because we are talking about the importance of defining problems, and I'd like to touch upon some data. Compared to 120 years, the globe is 1.2 Celsius degrees increase, and day by day there is temperature increase, and the contagious diseases increase threefold, and there's pandemics and the contagious diseases outbreaks. They say I'm here. There is 1 million living organisms are under threat, according to WWF living globe. The vertebra is 68, and in the last in the last decade, there's a 41% of decrease in the insects. We believe that Turkey is an important gene center, but of course, we can say that there are more than 400 endangered species. The issues are very urgent and very important. So I'm very happy to see these projects. Now it is time for the youngsters to tell what kind of a world that they like to live. And so based on this, so in the areas of work and in their lifestyles, so they will take into account the nature. And I think that this is something that makes us happy all. And there is the world approach. It's about protecting the natural capital, consuming smartly, and redirecting the financial flows. And if these ideas are in this world, there will the single world approach should be taken, I believe. I have given my scores. I like it is, do you know the language of a foreign, the wildlife? And there are some projects that we will remember. Thank you very much. We'll see the results together. Thank you. Thank you very much for the information you provided. I will make an advertisement. You talked about the project of WWF. In the afternoon, there will be a training for herkes, nature-based solutions, and Central European European Center and WWF Sweden. There will be trainers which will be open for public. I'd like to give the floor Ahmet, Yaşar, Yıldız. I'd like to congratulate all the friends, and it is as an honor to be here in this forum. And the Faruk said it is a known project. Of course, the reason is that we don't train these people in this regard. So all the professions have to they have a contribution to nature, or there is a takeover there. So in all the professions, it should be the main class or additional optional class in the mechanical engineering, in the department of medicine, in the department of electricity engineering. So even after the primary school, that should be continued. And of course, I'll support the awareness campaign as Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. We can work on all of the companies, and this is very important, I believe. And with our friends, so everyone is thinking of restoring the nature. There are the gardens, and the Galata Tower should be lighted only reflecting the meteorological information. We do not nutrition, of course, the supporting for not hurting, because they protect us. Of course, the plant is seeded. The seed is planted. I have few notes I'd like to say, but I am not watching the news. I received some information about there are two bears in cars and art when they go into the urban. So one is attacking the citizen, and the other one is going through the debris and litter. And when I saw this, everything is changed. And in televisions, when we will discuss the birds and how they migrate, and they connected to biodiversity, and when a bear ensures that eliminates the pollutants. If we make news about this, and especially in terms of health, the world is the most important pharmaceutical storage, and we have to when we make news about this, and as I pointed out, so if we will have the human biting the dog will be in this stage. We're in a war with the nature. Maybe we will win. But we will get lose in the world. I made my evaluation. The projects I made a different scoring for the projects. This is for I'd like to say, and thank you very much. I'm very honored to be, and it's very enjoyable to be within this platform, and I'd like to thank everyone who contributed and who worked in this regard. Would like to thank Ahmet Bey. In 28th to 29th of September, we had the chance to see you, and your speech was like a public spot. And I'd like to give Selva Gürdoğan. Professor Selva is a member of the execution board of MARUF. She has huge contribution. Thank you, and I'd like to congratulate everyone. Within 2 days, preparation of this presentations is not easy. As Faruk Bey does, I am disappointed about the originality. Maybe this is our mistake in the organization. The problem definition we should have been more interactive. Everyone empathize themselves, and they learned what they are lacking. This is the first reaction, natural first reaction. I wish that there was because the one we are empathizing is the human, and it should have been the wild, and I wish that we looked for ways for that. And again, thank you very much. We will start this way. This is a very good start. The establishment of the wildlife unit in the Metropolitan Municipality is very important. As Faruk Bey say, we have to have platforms, and we have to disseminate the platforms. And there are leading NGOs like WWF. We are grateful to that. So they've been insistent to put it on our agenda. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Şimdi ben sözü Ecem Hanım'a vermek istiyorum.
I'd like to give the floor to Ecem Şuhacı Küçük from Zemin Istanbul. She's like a host, please. Hi everyone, thank you very much Görsev Hanım. As Zemin Istanbul family, we are happy to be in cooperation with the Union of Marmara Municipalities, and we are proud because, of course, I listened to the speeches of the participants and the professors, and there's a problem about originality. The same things as Görsev kept over and over again, and feasibility is how realistic the projects are. And Ahmet Bey pointed out, if I'm to talk about Ecem characteristics, I didn't know much. Let's see. So we discussed the urban for wildlife. With Ali, we said that to what extent that could be that could be conducted, and we did actually. We stopped ourselves, as I understand now, but as Ahmet Bey said, that we have to learn. So within 1 week to 10 days, I learned what I'm doing right and what should I do right. As Selva Hanım said that they will have their own empathies, but this is an awareness because in entrepreneurship ecosystem, we see that there's going back to the nature using clean energy, clean water, or what we can have there. There are many projects, and also the generations that actually is thinking about this. So the children has something as a cause, and this is something I'd like to see. And we started an awareness here because about I do hackathon and such things. It is not something that I have seen most of the time. And 7 teams projects can be implemented or not, but they're very good, and for coming up with the opinions. And trying to solve a problem is very important. I'd like to thank MARUF family for that, for giving us this opportunity to us and to all the ones. And I'm very happy to be the mentor, and I'm very proud to be a mentor here. Thank you very much, Ecem Hanım. I'd like to give the floor to Ali Bey, and I'd like to thank Emine Hanım from Zemin Istanbul, and she was very happy for the orientation. Ali Bey, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clear and loud. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be inside this organization, this structure, together with Ecem. We try to support our colleagues somehow, and we have received very good feedback from them. This subject is specific and social oriented, as we have expected. Projects are very similar, and in entrepreneurship projects, when we come to the social benefit, they are highly qualified. However, they are restricted. A nature, an ecosystem which can renew itself, can be damaged by humankind, but then trying to improve it and rehabilitate it. For this reason, instead of preserving something, it's not very meaningful to improve it. It's very important to conserve the nature rather than improve it. And in this reason, to create an awareness is important. I think the projects are meaningful and beautiful, and the sociology is gathered with the technology, and then it makes sense. And using the data and making a sense of that is very valuable. And I think I would like to thank the participants for all the projects they have made and the judges for their assessment. Now we are giving the floor back to Professor Elif Kendir Beraha. The floor is yours, Professor. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. It was very pleasant to be invited to such an organization. Once again, I would like to thank you for the invitation. It has been very exciting to listen to those proposals. And I think it's expected, and it's a great success for 2 days. The lack of originality is possible, but starting to think about them, as everybody has said, is very important. Absolutely, inside these groups, some of them have thought in a detailed way in order to transform it into a model involving stakeholders. In that sense, I think it's very positive, and I'm sure that everybody will keep thinking about that. Out of the comments, in particular the comment of Nilay Hanım, is similar to what I think. I wanted to see in situ protection example. It's very important in many senses. Being there is actually very important, and some of the groups have underlined it. For example, one group organized a camp activity. I think it's a very important activity. We as individuals, I as an individual interested in this subject is because of camping. I was almost born in a camp. My family are campers. And I have just came from scuba diving. So seeing this kind of wildlife inside it make you think a lot of things. Naturally, we are looking from a distance and we are trying to create a system proposal. However, the teams of stakeholders that are proposed are very important. And nobody almost talk about artists or the interface being used very effectively should be designed. So this is something rational because of the subject, but really making that impact visible is something very important for these kind of processes. Recently, together with my master's students, started to talk about an interesting concept which I did not know. The extinction of experience is the concept they were talking about. The human-nature relationships have been minimized. And for this reason, in particular, early-age children is in a difficult position. And there was a team who talked about empathy. They said children are open to empathic learning at these age intervals, and I liked it very much. This extinction of experience is very important. Being far away, alienation, something in order to eliminate that is necessary. In all the presentations, the data which was collected from Academy or Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, but crowdsourcing is a very common activity. Those kind of interactive meeting collections and people joining in order to create a database is very important. All of these are very interesting subjects, and you have come up with very good ideas, even though they look alike. I think that's an awesome performance for the 2 days. I'm very happy to be involved in this, even for a limited time. I want to continue this research. Hopefully, we can find the opportunity to do something together with some of you. I'm very happy to get to know all of you, and thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much, Professor. All the assessments of the judges are very good. I have taken notes. Probably I will not have a time for wrapping up, but I hope to meet again. I have noticed that we have been in contact with very good and very accurate mentors and judges. MARUF team has worked very intensively, but I would like to thank two colleagues, Büşra and Nazan. Now they are in the technical part. They are taking care of you, and they made this marathon what it is. Now we can announce the top 3, and very lately we have decided to put an award. As Marmara Union of Municipalities, we are organizing these kind of activities to come together with the young people and to create an opportunity for other works. And we hope to continue this communication with the judges and with all the work employees here. We want to keep working. And the awards are a participation experience to the dolphin observation. And the Zemin Istanbul Incubation Center will give a 3-month training, and we are going to give a selection of our publications. The third running group is Group 10, Ecology-Based Training Module. Very briefly, would you like to say something? I would like to thank everybody for the trainings. Really, as you have mentioned earlier, we were not very familiar with this subject, and you have created an opportunity for us to think about this subject and to come up with solutions. Thank you. I would like to thank you too for carrying out this kind of project. Once again, I would like to thank you all. Thank you very much, Bekir. And I'm announcing the second ranking. Actually, the first and second are very close. They have very close scores. Both of them can be deemed the winner. The second group is Wildish, the mobile game and experiencing application for children. Thank you very much for your voting. For 2 days we sat in front of computer. Thinking and researching is a difficult process for me. For this reason, I would like to thank and congratulate all the participants. We are here to do something good, and I would like to thank in particular for the trophy. We thank you. I wish we were face to face in these kind of times. Now we are coming to the winning group, the group number 7, Urbanimal, Special Wildlife Database, Urbanimal. First of all, we would like to thank you all, and I do agree with what has been said by my colleagues. I would like to add that seeing people from our discipline in this organization made us very happy. As city planners, we need to think, and we need to keep thinking about the wildlife. This was just a beginning, as you have said, and I would like to thank the judges, and I will never forget what has been said by judges and the mentors. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we need to close gradually, and we would like to look forward to future collaborations and projects. We have taken note of everything. This is a new subject. The wildlife is a new subject for MARUF team, and we have learned a lot. And together with the links of WWF, we have created a very nice portfolio, and we can create that portfolio. If you do not have anything extra to say, I would like to pass to closing. Soon at 1 in the main room, there will be city talks. And first, I would like to leave the floor to Nilay, then I'm gonna close. Thank you very much, and sorry to interrupt, but Professor Çağatay made a reference to a project. Before closing, I just wanted to explain that together with Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, together with Beşiktaş Municipality and Adalar Municipality, for improving home recycling, we are making a study. The name is Plastic Hunters. You can see the details in the website together with the designers of the Directorate of Gardens and Parks. We have designed containers. You will see those containers. Home recycling is important.